Manchester United have been told they will have to pay £55 million in order to get Matthijs de Ligt and Mazraoui from Bayern Munich. McTominay to Fulham is looking like it will happen, with Fulham set to submit a third bid, and Aaron Wan-Bissaka deal delay, with Inter Milan trying to ruin the party for West Ham. These are some of the stories we will be discussing on this morning's live show. But before we get into that, please do me one small favour. Smash a like on today's video. Let's try and see 1,000 likes on this episode. And if this is your first time watching, please do subscribe to the channel. We're about to hit 35k subscribers, so make sure you get involved. Let's try and hit that by the end of today. Right, let's jump straight on into it. And I want to start the show off by asking you a question. I like to try and make the shows interactive. There will be a poll running in the live show. And if you're watching back on repeat, you can obviously let me know in the comment section. So the question is going to be this. It's going to be, should Manchester United pay 55 million for De Ligt and Mazraoui? Should United pay... Remember, it's just me who does this, so I do apologise that I have to type the things out. There you go. The poll is set up. So you can let me know, if you're watching back on repeat, you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you're watching live, obviously get involved in the poll, get your comments in, get your questions in and all the rest of it. And I will react to that in a couple of minutes' time. So I'll come back to that question in a second. And I want to jump straight on over to Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Because obviously there was a story last night that apparently Inter Milan are trying to hijack the deal. Apparently, Wan-Bissaka wants to join Inter Milan. That's the latest today. He's not that convinced about going to West Ham. And I mean, can you really blame him? He's gone from the biggest club in England, in Manchester United, who were playing in the Champions League last season, in the Europa League this season, just won the FA Cup, won the League Cup the season before, to West Ham, who obviously are a big club, but they're not on the level of a Manchester United, are they? Whereas, you know, Aaron Wan-Bissaka going to Inter Milan, he's going to a team that just won the Serie A team that were in the Champions League final 2 seasons ago. Like, Inter Milan is a massive, massive club with a huge fan base, beautiful stadium, beautiful city. So I don't really blame him, to be honest. But does that mean that he will end up there? It all depends on money. It depends on who offers the most. At the moment, West Ham have apparently offered 10 million, which I think is laughable. 10 million for Wan-Bissaka. Man United apparently are asking for closer to 20, which I think is fair. 1 year left in his contract. I honestly think Wan-Bissaka is still one of the best defensive right-backs in the league. Going forward, yes, there is some question marks, but defensively, I really, really like Wan-Bissaka. And I think even with 1 year left in his contract, at the age of 26, he should definitely be worth more than £10 million. And I think you'd probably all agree with us there, right? So Wan-Bissaka to West Ham. This is coming out from Fabrizio Romano. He says that West Ham are trying to advance on the deal with Wan-Bissaka. He says West Ham have not yet given up on signing the player. He says Man United are ready to sign Mazraoui as soon as Aaron Wan-Bissaka leaves. So the thing with West Ham at the moment is, right, they're doing 3 deals at the same time. Absolutely mad. They're signing that Fulkrug guy, Somerville from Leeds, and this Guido Rodriguez, who's a free agent. So they're trying to do those 3 deals whilst also trying to sign Wan-Bissaka. 4 deals, all at the same time. That's crazy, isn't it? Like, imagine if we were doing 4 deals at the same time. Anyway, so Wan-Bissaka to West Ham. Obviously, I'll keep you updated on that one. But as it stands at the moment, he'll probably feature in the game against Liverpool on Sunday morning. And then obviously the team flies back, I think, straight after that game. They'll be back in Manchester training on Tuesday, I believe. So yeah, early next week will probably be when we start to see people like Eriksen, people like McTominay, Lindelof, Wan-Bissaka. I think we'll start to get those players leaving. But I was thinking this last night, right? And I wanted to get your opinion, okay? Now, we know that Erik ten Hag will want to win that Community Shield. I know people are like, oh, it's just a charity game. It doesn't mean anything. But it is still a trophy of some sort, isn't it? It's a shield, but it's still a trophy. I know the Arsenal fans still count their Community Shield as one of Arteta's trophies, don't they? Oh, he won 2 trophies, blah, blah, blah. One of them was the Community Shield. So my point here is Erik ten Hag will want to win that game against Man City. And I actually think in some ways that game is probably slowing down getting rid of players, because he's probably looking at the situation and thinking, I want to sell these people, the Wan-Bissakas, the Lindelofs, the Eriksens, etc. But at the same time, I want my squad to be as strong as possible for that Community Shield game, which is a week today. And say we get back to Manchester on Tuesday and Wan-Bissaka leaves, Eriksen leaves, Lindelof leaves, McTominay leaves. There's no way that we'll have 4 players signed by the Community Shield game in training and ready to play. Like, it's impossible. These players have been with Erik ten Hag for the last 2 years, haven't they? And they're match fit. They've been on the pre-season tour. So what I'm trying to get at here is, I actually think we're not going to see many people properly leaving until after that Community Shield game, because he'll want the squad to be as strong as possible. Obviously, we've already got injuries in Højlund. We've got injuries in Lenny Yoro. There's a couple of other players, obviously, like Garnacho and Martinez are only just coming back from holiday now. Kobe Mainoo isn't even back yet. Luke Shaw's not back yet. Like, there are still quite a few players who aren't even in training. And does it make logical sense for Erik ten Hag and Ineos to push out these players now when they've got this massive game next Saturday? And I know people are like, oh, it's not a massive game, it doesn't matter, get rid of them. But you know what Erik ten Hag's like, you know what his mentality's like, and you know what the narrative's going to be. If Manchester United lose that Community Shield game, you're going to have the likes of TalkSport, you're going to have the likes of Sky Sports saying, oh, it was the wrong decision to keep him, they should have sacked him, blah, blah, blah. You can already see the headlines being written. You know, these journalists will be preparing their negative stories, hoping that Manchester United lose to Man City next weekend. And I think Erik ten Hag's going to really, really want to win that game, because it will really start the season for him if we can kick on from there. But let me know what you think about that. And maybe you think that's complete rubbish. Let me know what you think. Like, I think, as Flying Dutchman says, the Community Shield is a statement game. Lewis says the Community Shield is a friendly. I doubt he'll be too concerned. Mate, you only have to listen to Erik ten Hag's press conferences to see what his mentality's like. He will want to win that game. He will want to beat Pep Guardiola. He will want to silence the haters. You know? Jeffrey says, what if we don't sell them and then they get injured? Well, we've been playing Wan-Bissaka the whole tour. We've been playing Lindelof in the tour. We've been playing... All of the players that we want to sell have been featuring in completely pointless friendlies in America. So, yeah. I just think when you think of the situation, the occasion, it's at Wembley, the biggest ground in the UK. It's against your arch rivals. Malp says, let's be honest, no one cares about the Community Shield. I'm telling you now for a fact, Manchester United will be desperate to win that Community Shield game. Without a shadow of a doubt, 100%. I want us to win. You're honestly saying you don't care about winning the Community Shield. You only get to the Community Shield by winning either the FA Cup or the Premier League, right? That's like being like, oh, we don't care about winning the Super Cup, you know, for if you're in the Champions League and the Europa League. Of course they're going to want to win it, of course. And the point I'm making here is that if they get rid of loads of players now, Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Eriksen, McTominay, Pellistri, Hannibal, like if they get rid of 6 players next week, right? And then we go into that game with six first team players gone and no replacements, like, think about it logically. Just think about it. You'll all be sat here, all the people, when we lose against Man City, saying, sack him, get him out. Like, I bet you any money that will happen, right? And you know what the narrative is like around Manchester United. One bad loss, even if it's a Community Shield that you're telling me now that you don't care about, if we go and lose 4-0 to Man City next weekend, there will be people in this chat saying, get him out, we never should have given him the new contract, he's a disgrace. Like, you can already see people thinking that in their heads, you know? So I want to win that game. I think it's very, very important. I think it's a must-win game for me. I think it will really, really show us how the rest of the season is going to be. And I think that Erik ten Hag needs as many players as possible. And let's be honest, right? There is no way on earth we're going to have the Ligt and Mazraoui available for that game. Even if we get the here we go for them today, right? We'll probably have the medical next week and then they might be on the bench. It's impossible. We won't have a single new signing in that squad against Man City next Saturday. I bet you any money. I would say it's impossible. The Ligt's only just gone back to Bayern Munich training yesterday. They're not going to be ready to start a game next weekend. So I just wanted to see what you think about that. Obviously, let me know. Some people are saying I don't care, it's just a friendly, but those same people will be complaining if we lose and calling for the manager to be sacked. So it's, yeah. But anyway, let's move on from that. We've got over 1,000 people watching the show live now, which is absolutely amazing. If everyone could do me a small favour and hit the like button, I would really, really appreciate that. The more people that like the video, the more that YouTube's algorithms will show this to more people. It will bring more people into the channel and it will allow us to do bigger and better things in the future. And if this is your first time watching, please do subscribe. We're less than 200 subscribers away from 35k. So I'll tell you what, if we hit 35k by the end of today's video, which the end of this stream, that is, I will give out something. I'm not sure what yet. I'll give it a match ticket to a game this season. If we can hit 35k by the end of this video. So everybody go and subscribe. Go and do that right now. And let's try and hit 35k. Joshua says, that's not always the case though. Using the last Community Shield as an example, Arsenal and Man City. Arsenal didn't win the FA Cup or the Premier League. Yeah, I get your point there, mate. But I think for Manchester United, it's a whole different matter. It's a whole different matter. I'm telling you for a fact, if we lose against Man City next week, the narrative for the next 2 weeks will be Erik ten Hag should have been sacked. TalkSport saying they never should have kept him the job. You'll have Simon Jordan saying, oh, it's a disgrace that he got a new contract. They should have got rid of him. They should have got Tuchel. Like, that's all people will be talking about, I promise you. Whereas if he wins the game, they'll say, fair play to Ineos. They made the right decision. Good on them. Like, they've stuck with the manager. Like, it's so black and white with Manchester United. There's never a middle ground, ever. It's either absolute hysteria or positive. Hysteria, positive. There's never a middle ground. And it's the same with the fan base, you know? So, yeah, I want us to win the Community Shield without a shadow of a doubt. And I think that's why, as I said, the outgoings have slowed down. Because Manchester United are realising that they can't bring the players in that they want that quickly. Ugarte, God knows what's happened to him. Ligt and Mazraoui we'll talk about in a minute. And just to round up that bit of the show, even if we get rid of these players now, we're not going to have the replacements in by next Saturday. That's the point I'm making. Erik ten Hag's already without Lenny Yoro. He's without Rasmus Højlund. We'll do a preview for that game, obviously. But as it stands at the moment, right? Luke Shaw, is he going to be match fit? Who knows? Malacia out for 2 months, so we've got no left back at the moment. Defensive-wise, Martinez just come back from training. Hopefully he's available. It's going to be Martinez and Maguire. It's probably going to be Dalot at left back. Who's going to play at right back? We don't have a right back. I mean, it could be Harry Amas at left back, maybe, and Dalot at right back. And then you look to the midfield. It's probably going to be Casemiro, Mainu, Bruno, which is decent. Ahmad, Xerxes maybe. Xerxes might not even be ready. And then Rashford's injured, apparently. So, yeah, anyway, let's move on from that. You can let me know in the comments. Maybe you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't care about the Community Shield. It's rubbish, whatever. But I care about it. It's still a trophy for me. And we earned our right to be in that Community Shield. We did, you know? We earned our right by beating the best team in the world, Man City. We beat Liverpool as well to get there. And for people to be like, it's not an important game, it doesn't matter. It does. It does matter because we got there because of what our achievements were last season. So, yeah. But let's move on from that, though. Josh says, I want us to win, not because I class it as a trophy, but because it's against City and it's at Wembley. Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. If it was against, like, Burnley or something, you know, like, people would be like, oh, I don't really care, it's only Burnley. But, it's, you know, it's a Manchester derby. So, anyway, let's move on from that. Let's move on over to McTominay. Let's move to McTominay. So, the news on McTominay this morning is that apparently Fulham, same city, but different club. Apparently, Fulham are set to put in a third bid for McTominay. They had a bid rejected a couple of days ago of 23 million, including add-ons. Manchester United have asked for 25 million plus add-ons, with a total deal going up to 30 million pounds. There is now an expectation that this deal will go through. Apparently, McTominay has given a verbal agreement or interest to Fulham, saying that he would like to go to the club. You know, he is interested. The thing we have to remember here with McTominay is, right, he doesn't earn big wages at Manchester United. So there's a massive opportunity for him here to go to London and get a big pay rise. He's on about 70k a week, which I know is a lot of money for me or you. But if you look at Fulham's wage structure at the moment, 70k a week is about half of their kind of top earner at the moment. Their top earner is Leno, the goalkeeper. He's on 130k a week. I would imagine if he goes to Fulham, he'd probably earn somewhere around 100k a week. So it's about a 30 grand a week pay rise. What's that? $1.5 million more a season. So he is going to be compensated for moving. Obviously, it is a step down to go to Fulham, but he's going to be probably starting every single game. He'll be reuniting with Andres Pereira, obviously, who was in the Manchester United Youth Academy. And I think he'll go there and do really, really well. And the thing with McTominay is, right, I like McTominay. I think he's a likeable character. I think he's probably a good person to have around the training ground, a positive person. He doesn't complain. He doesn't let his head drop. You know, he always gives 150%. I just think that what we need McTominay 4, which is to play as a central midfielder, he can't do the job we need effectively because he's much better further up the pitch and he's not very good as like a holding midfielder. So for that reason alone, I think, moving him on makes a lot of sense. So McTominay to where is he going? To Fulham. Looks like it will happen. But I think it probably will happen not this week, the week after. But let me know how you feel about that. £25 million plus add-ons. Would you be happy about that? Do you think that's a fair price? Would you like a little bit more? Let me know what you think in the comment section. I've got no complaints. I think that is his market value. 1 year left on his deal. We'd be very, very lucky to get anything more than that. So yeah, that looks like it will happen probably in the next couple of days. But as I said, I imagine you won't get the medicals and all the rest of it until after the Community Shield. I might be wrong. Maybe it happens tomorrow. Maybe it happens today. But I just think that obviously we've got this game against Liverpool tomorrow morning. Then they fly back to Manchester. I think they're back in training on Tuesday. And then all of the focus is going to be on the Community Shield. It's going to be Erik ten Hag putting together his best team to go and get a result against Man City on the weekend. So that will be the focus. And obviously Dan Ashworth and Ineos will be working behind the scenes on the outgoings as well. So yeah. Let's move on over to Matthijs de Ligt and Mazraoui, because there has been a big update this morning. This is coming out from multiple different journalists here in the UK today. Obviously, we all know that Manchester United had a bid rejected yesterday. I'm still trying to find out how much this bid was. It hasn't been made public, but apparently it was a double bid. So a package deal, if you like, involving Mazraoui and Matthijs de Ligt. And the narrative today is that apparently they want £55 million. Okay? And do you know what's really, really funny? Okay, and I'm not here to criticise, but when we spoke about de Ligt being 50 million euros, right? People were like, "It's a rip-off. Don't buy him." But now, I think the narrative has kind of changed, hasn't it? Like, people are a little bit more open to it, aren't they? I think. So anyway, they want £55 million combined fee for Mazraoui and de Ligt. Okay? Now, apparently the breakdown of this is 50 million for de Ligt, that's euros, and 15 million euros for Mazraoui. And when you look at it like that, and when you kind of word it slightly different, I think it's an okay deal, because you're getting Mazraoui for really cheap. 15 million euros for Mazraoui is a bargain. He's worth probably double that, I think. 26 years of age, very, very good right back. 15 million euros is only about maybe 12 million pounds. Yeah, 12 million pounds for Mazraoui, right? And then Bayern Munich will still get their 50 million euros for de Ligt. So 50 million euros for de Ligt, 15 million euros for Mazraoui, total combined fee of 55 million pounds. And when I kind of process it in my head like that, if Bayern Munich are adamant that they want this 50 million euros for de Ligt, fine, because they're effectively giving us a bit of a cheaper deal on Mazraoui. So I personally would do this deal. I think at this point we need it. Obviously, there's going to be lots of outgoings in the coming weeks. I know it doesn't feel like it, but I honestly do feel like, Ineos have spoken and they've said, we're on the pre-season tour. Let's wait until we're back. Let's wait until after the Community Shield. There's still 3 weeks left of the window, and then we'll push all these players out of the club. I think that's what's going on. I don't see any other reason why. I might be completely wrong, and obviously we can look back on this in a couple of weeks. If we're sat here in 2 weeks and Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, McTominay, Hannibal, Pellistri are still all here, I'll be like, what the hell is going on, But at the moment, I think they are just carefully plotting, getting their bits together. So yeah, let me know what you think about this. £55 million combined fee, which is 65 million euros. But as I said, they will still get their 50 million for de Ligt. Stefan says de Ligt is 36 million pounds max and Mazraoui is 12 million max. Yeah, I mean, there is still the potential that we can negotiate the price down a little bit, remember. Just because they want 55 million pounds doesn't mean we'll pay it. The story this morning is that Manchester United are going to go back in with a second bid. Again, we don't know how much that's going to be. I imagine it will probably be closer to £50 million combined for the two of them. If they do that, it'll be an unbelievable deal. Let me just say that for now. Because de Ligt, if de Ligt finds the form that he had at Ajax, he's probably a £60 to £80 million player, I think. he would be up there in the kind of price ranges of what we paid for Maguire, what Chelsea paid for Fofana from Leicester, the Van Dijk kind of prices. You know, the Gvardiol to Man City price, like £80 million would be De Ligt's value if he was back in the same vein of form as he was under Erik ten Hag at Ajax. And Mazraoui, I think, is probably like a £30 million player. So you're effectively getting Mazraoui and De Ligt, who, if please focus on the word if here, if they fulfill their potential, which they could well do, they could easily be an 80 and £30 million player. Easy, right? Like, all you have to do is look at De Ligt's transfer fees before. He's 24 years of age, right? He's moved twice to this point in his career. Obviously, he moved from Ajax to Juventus. And he moved from Juventus to Bayern Munich. So Juventus paid 85 million euros for him. That was 4 seasons ago. And Juventus then sold him for 67 million euros. So if we get these two, Mazraoui and De Ligt, for 65 million euros, that will be less than what Juventus and Bayern Munich paid for De Ligt on his own. And that doesn't mean that it's going to work. He might come in, he might be injured all the time, and we might say he's a flop. But the point I'm making here is we're signing a young player in De Ligt, 24 years of age, with lots of potential. That could really, really be good, you know, but it is a big gamble. And that's why I think Manchester United are trying to protect themselves on the price, because there's no guarantees. De Ligt could come to Manchester United and it might be an absolute disaster. That could happen. He might be injured all season. Obviously, I hope that doesn't happen, but anything can happen in football, can't it? But generally, if we can get them for 50, 55 million, which is apparently what Bayern Munich are asking for, I think it probably is a good deal. If you kind of break down how much we'll get and you look at it from another perspective, right? Lindelof, apparently we're going to get about 15 million euros for, and Wan-Bissaka we're going to get about 20 million euros for. So that's 35 million euros there. And then we spend 65 million on De Ligt and Mazraoui. So your net spend is 30 million euros, and you've gone from Wan-Bissaka and Lindelof to De Ligt and Mazraoui, which I think would be an improvement. De Ligt's definitely better than Lindelof, and I think Mazraoui is more of a rounded player than Wan-Bissaka. He's maybe not as good defensively, but for the style of play that Erik ten Hag wants, I think Mazraoui would be a perfect fit. And obviously with the Lenny Yoro injury, we all know that we desperately need a new centre-back. That's like obvious. Obviously Luke Shaw can play as left-sided centre-back, but I'm not sure. Does anybody know if Martinez has played at right-sided centre-back before? I don't think he has he? And we know that Erik ten Hag likes to have a left-sided centre-back being left-footed and a right-sided centre-back being right-footed. So I don't know whether that would actually work, to be honest. But yeah, so I'm quite excited about this. People in the chat are saying that Bayern are selling us all of their injury-prone players. I can't believe that some fans can't see this. I mean, it's a fair point, but if you actually look at the stats, right? Maguire was injured more last season than De Ligt was. What do you think of that? What's your reaction to that? If you look at De Ligt's injuries over the last 7 years combined, it's only like 4 or 5 games he's missed a year over the last 7 years, if you add them all up together combined. So it's not actually that bad. Dean says, how much did Mazraoui cost Bayern? Nothing, mate. They got him for free from Ajax. So they'll be making a profit on Mazraoui because they didn't pay a transfer fee for him. Dean says if Bayern are stalling on the deal, we should just hijack the Jonathan Tah deal. Yeah, I mean, that's another option. Another option. Definitely. But yeah, I'm happy about these two players. I think it will be an improvement. I think if they fulfill their potential, which obviously we hope they do, I think we'll be in a very, very good place. And I think we'll look back on this moment and say, what a good bit of business that was, you know? Again, I accept that there is a massive risk. I accept that, you know, people keep pointing at their injuries. People say, what about this? What about that? I get that. But we just have to hope and pray that Ineos know what they're doing and that Erik ten Hag knows what he's doing. Because effectively, let's just be completely blunt here. If Erik ten Hag messes this up and we have a terrible season and we finish 10th, he'll get sacked, you know? So it's his job on the line here. It's his head on the line. And I know it looks like we're forming an Ajax past and present. Onana, Eriksen, Martinez, Anthony, Mazraoui, De Ligt. That's pretty mad to think, isn't it? That if Erik ten Hag gets these two players, over half of our team, probably over half of our starting team will be Ajax past and present players, which is absolutely mind-boggling. But at the same time, I'm not really into this whole narrative that we shouldn't be doing that. If we're signing the best players available in those positions and we're getting them for a good price and it works out, I don't care what club they used to play for, to be honest. It doesn't make any difference to me. All I want is players to come to Manchester United, to work hard, to play for the badge and to win us trophies. That's all I care about. Whether they've played for Ajax or not is irrelevant to me, really. You know, it's not like Erik ten Hag's getting a commission for signing ex-Ajax players. You know, he's signing them because he thinks they're the best people available in those positions. And interestingly enough as well, Erik ten Hag did speak about Ligt a couple of weeks ago, and he said that apparently it was actually Ineos who were saying that they should sign Ligt. And Erik ten Hag obviously said, yes, I would like Ligt. He's a good player. But it didn't come from Erik ten Hag. I don't know about Mazraoui. I think that probably has come from Ten Hag, to be honest. But in relation to Ligt, apparently it was like a mutual agreement between all the people. And the thing you have to remember as well, right, is Dan Ashworth's just moved to Manchester United, right? The biggest club in the world. It's the biggest job he'll probably ever get in his career, realistically, Dan Ashworth. The same with Jason Wilcox. The same with Omar Barada. I know he was at Man City, but let's be honest, before about 10 years ago, Man City were irrelevant, right? Man United are the biggest club in England and probably the first or second biggest club in the world. If they mess this up, they'll be at Burnley in 5 years' time. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's so much pressure on all these people to get it right, and we have to trust them until they prove us wrong. I think it's pretty unfair to kind of, you know, slag them off. But we've got over 1,500 people watching live now, which is absolutely amazing. But we've only got 400 likes. It's completely free content. I'd really appreciate it if everyone watching now could smash a like on the video. We've got a likes target of 1,000. So if everybody watching now hits the like button, we will hit our target. And I did make a promise a couple of minutes ago that if we hit 35k subscribers by the end of this video, I will give out a ticket to a game at Old Trafford next season. So go and subscribe now. We are about 150 away. So there must be 150 people watching right now who aren't subscribed. Go and subscribe. And I will do a competition then in the live chat to give away a game ticket. I'll be live for about another 20 minutes. So we've got 20 minutes to do it. Go and subscribe if you haven't already. Everyone is welcome. Okay. What are people saying in the chat today? I'll come back to the chat in a minute. Let's have a look at what the results of the poll are, and then maybe we can set up a new one in a minute. So the question I asked you was, should Manchester United pay 55 million for Ligt and Mazraoui? 91% of people watching the show today say yes, and 9% say no. There you go. That's good. I would agree with that. You know, that's fine. Okay, let's move on from that, though, and let's jump on over to... Let's talk about Manuel Ugarte. I'll try and keep this bit as brief as possible. So the news this morning coming from the Benfica president is that he has confirmed that João Neves has joined PSG. He says, yes, it's all done. It's sad to see João leaving us. He's a top player and a top guy, but we can't reject a 70 million euros package. It's simple. We can't say no. So that's a done deal. João Neves to PSG, done deal, confirmed by literally the president of Benfica. Now, what does this mean for Manuel Ugarte? Well, we all know that PSG are still demanding 70 million euros, which I think is absolutely laughable. Like, where have they got this price from? 60 million pounds they want, 70 million euros. I honestly think, right, and don't take this the wrong way, I think he's probably worth half of that. I think he's probably worth 30 to 40 million pounds, realistically, Manuel Ugarte. And realistically, all that PSG are trying to do here is they massively overpaid for him last summer. They gave Sporting Lisbon 60 million euros for Manuel Ugarte 1 year ago, right? And he's gone there. It hasn't really worked out. And now they've got other players in his position and they don't need him anymore. And instead of themselves looking stupid and accepting that they made a bad deal and they overpaid and it hasn't worked and they haven't been able to bring him into the team, they're trying to rub it off as, oh, we can make profit on him. It's all good. You know, we did a good deal. Like, no. Manchester United aren't going to be taken for fools in the market anymore. We've seen that so far with the deals we've done. Xerxes for 34 million, I think, was an absolute bargain. When you think about the goals, the stats that Xerxes had compared to Rasmus Højlund, Xerxes' stats were way better in Serie A than Rasmus Højlund. And we paid 70 million for Højlund and we got Xerxes for 34. So I think Xerxes was a really, really good bit of business. I think Lenny Yoro was a really good bit of business. Obviously, he's injured, which makes it frustrating. But 42 million for Lenny Yoro I thought was good. 70 million euros for Manuel Ugarte is not good. I'm sorry. It just simply isn't. It really, really isn't. And the problem that we have is PSG are just saying, either you pay the money, otherwise we're not going to sell him. That's their narrative. And I think when you really, really kind of process this, the reason why they're like that is because they're obviously feeling upset about the Mbappe situation. Mbappe's left them for free. Mbappe's what, a 200, 300 million pound player? Like, he's probably the most expensive player in the world, isn't he? He would be like 200, 300 million on the market, maybe even more. And they got nothing for him. They didn't get a penny. They gave him all of these crazy wages. They made him the ambassador of the club and all of this stuff, and he left for nothing. So the last thing that PSG want is to look even more stupid to their fans. And we know that the PSG fans are very vocal. They're very active. They protest. They do all sorts of crazy things, right? The last thing they want is to now go and sell their big summer signing from last year, Manuel Ugarte, for a loss. And I understand that position, but Manchester United need to know that if that's the position that they hold themselves in, they just need to walk away. They need to go and look at something else, you know? And I'm sure that Manchester United are doing this. And the more I think about it as well, obviously we spoke about this loan deal yesterday. I don't know if anybody remembers, but apparently PSG have said that they will do a loan where Manchester United can have him on loan for 1 season, 10 million loan fee, plus cover his wages, right? But then at the end of it, they have to buy him for 60, 70 million. I just don't think that's a good deal. I'm sorry, I just don't. And I think the more it goes on, the less I want Manuel Ugarte at Manchester United. I was excited 2 months ago about Manuel Ugarte, but we're 2 months down the line and they're still just saying 70 million, 70 million, 70 million. And effectively all they're doing, right, is getting us to give them the money that they just bought João Neves for. And I think most people in this chat, if I said to you, you could either have João Neves or you could have Manuel Ugarte for 70 million, I think most people would go with João Neves, right? Because there are lots of other CDMs available on the market for a lot less money. So yeah, I would definitely at this point just walk away. I think that would make the most sense. But it'd be interesting to see what you guys think. Like, should we keep progressing this deal with PSG? I say progressing the deal. There is no progress. For 8 weeks, PSG have said 70 million, 70 million, 70 million, right? So there's no progress. The progress is the same. It's just like a broken record, isn't it? It's just the same thing being said back to Manchester United. Either you pay the 70 million or we don't sell him. So yeah, I would just walk away at this stage. I think we desperately need this CDM to come in. And 70 million euros is just not good business in this market. It really, really isn't. So yeah, I would look at alternative options. But you let me know what you think in the comments about that. Should Manchester United continue trying to sign Manuel Ugarte, or do you think at this point we should just walk away? Obviously, how I started that bit of the show, PSG will now want to sell him. Obviously, João Neves is signing. They don't need him anymore. They didn't need him last summer, so why would they need him now? Sorry, they didn't need Manuel Ugarte last season, did they? So the reality of the matter is, why would they want him now if they didn't want him before, when they've just signed another new midfielder? Yeah, it's frustrating. It is. Kyle's saying we should go for Verratti. That's not a name I've heard in a long time. Nigel says, Kieran, it's been over 10 weeks since United have been trying to get these players. Al says, why don't we negotiate for Zubimendi? And V33 has just come in with a super chat saying the same thing. Let's teach PSG a lesson and go and get Zubimendi. I was watching one of Fabrizio's shows the other day, and apparently Zubimendi wants to stay at Real Sociedad. And apparently, if Manchester United wanted to sign Zubimendi, apparently Real Sociedad want the full release clause, which is £51 million, and apparently they want most of it up front. And I think that's what's putting Manchester United off, apparently, because it makes it a difficult deal to do. Like, if you look at the Lenny Yoro and the Xerxes deal, we're paying those transfer fees over like a 3-year period. So we're only paying like 10 to 12 million per player this season. Whereas apparently in the instance of Zubimendi, they want the majority of his release clause paid up front. It was the same with João Neves. The reason we didn't get João Neves was not because we didn't want him. It wasn't because he didn't want to come to Manchester United. It was because Benfica said, we'll sell him for 70 million euros, which is 50 million less than his release clause. But I think they wanted at least half of the transfer fee up front. And apparently Manchester United weren't willing to do that. Because remember, they want to buy as much as possible this season. And spending 35 million in one window is effectively 3 players if you do it in a different way. Does that make sense? Like Xerxes and Yoro, we're paying like 12 million a season for the next few years. Whereas João Neves, I think they said they wanted half the fee up front. So that would have been 35 million euros in one season, which would have got us effectively 3 players. Does that make sense? It's a little bit of a weird thing to get your head around, but effectively Man United is trying to spread it out over a number of years, and apparently the Zubimendi and João Neves deals weren't favourable terms, and that's why Manchester United are a little bit hesitant on it. Whereas obviously with PSG, they'll probably allow us to do it over like a 5-year period. So it might be that they want 70 million euros, but they say you only have to give us 12 million this year, 12 next year, 12 the year after, etc., etc. You know, so that's why I think Manchester United is still kind of negotiating with PSG, because they think that the payment terms might be better than what some of the alternatives options are. Obviously, there's still Youssouf Fofana. That's another player we could go for. There's still Sofiane Amrabat. There's still Adrien Rabiot. There are plenty of options still out there on the market, but it does seem like Manuel Ugarte is like the main option for Manchester United to progress with, you know? So, yeah. Okay, let's see what else people are saying in the chat this morning. What else have we got? Let's have a look what people are saying. I'm just going to have a sip of my tea. I think it's gone cold. Somebody in the chat saying, why don't we just sign Amrabat and Rabiot? I mean, the longer the window goes on, that might become a reality. You know? That could well become a reality. But Jay says, I think Silva from Benfica would be a better option than Ligt. Possibly. Somebody says, what's your thoughts on signing the youngster from Ajax, Hato? Yeah, he looks really, really good. Apparently he's linked with Liverpool, though. He does look good. The fan base are going to go into a meltdown if we sign another Ajax player. That would be 7 Ajax players then. And we've got 2 Eredivisie managers in René Haak and Ruud van Nistelrooy. And we've got Malacia. It would literally be like an Eredivisie past and present, wouldn't it? Like all of the coaching team would be Eredivisie and most of the first team would be Eredivisie past and present. I can already imagine people's reaction if that happened. People would be going crazy. Let's see what else people are saying. Wesley says, why don't we go for Ruben Neves from the Saudi League? To be honest, mate, it's been very, very quiet. I haven't heard anything about Ruben Neves. We were linked to him like 4 seasons ago. I just don't think that those are the profile of players that we're looking for. You know, like Kante's, Ruben Neves's. Ineos want players in their early 20s. That's what they're kind of going for. You know, and we can see that with Ligt. You can see that with Lenny Yoro. You can see that with Xerxes. Like they're trying to sign players who have a longer career ahead of them. Whereas signing people like Rabiot, Ruben Neves, Kante, like they're all good players, don't get me wrong, but they're kind of like the signings that we'd have done under the Glazers, you know, signing people in their late 20s, early 30s who probably have 4 or 5 years left of them in the tank, and then they're going to retire. And it doesn't really, from a value perspective, it doesn't really add much, you know. But what else are people saying in the chat? Macmillan says, people are panicking and Ineos aren't. Why are we being reactive? Glazers were reactive. Ineos aren't panicking about signings. I'm not panicking at all, to be honest. I actually am happy with how the window's gone so far. I'm happy that we're not overpaying. I'm happy that we've got rid of 10 players off the wage bill. I'm happy that we've reduced... Our wage bill has gone down by £1 million a week at the moment versus what we got rid of versus what we've spent. £1 million a week. It's about 50 million a season, give or take, right? I'm really, really happy about that because at the beginning of the window, I said the most important thing for me was to get rid of the players surplus to requirements, the players on big wages who didn't have a future at the club. And we've done that so far. You know, the Donny van der Beeks. We sorted out the Greenwood situation. We've sorted out Varane, Martial. Willy Campoala was maybe a little bit questionable, but the rest of them, like, I think was really, really good. And I've said this before, it's going to take 2 or 3 windows to get us to a position where we are challenging, I think. And it's not going to be one window where we go and sign 10 players because it's just not possible anymore, especially with the profit and sustainability and all the rest of it. So I'm happy with the window. And I think lots of deals will happen. And what I always try and do is analyse the situation and try and work out why Ineos are doing what Ineos do. So instead of just like pointing the finger at them and saying, why are they not signing anybody? The Glazers were better. Like there are some people with that narrative already, you know? You have to look at why they're doing that. And the reason why is because they don't see opportunity in the market. That's the reality of the situation. They don't want to overpay for players. And I respect that. Because the reason we're in the mess we are now is because for the last decade, every single window, we overpaid for players. If you go back through the transfers over the last decade, every summer, we've overpaid. Every summer, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, even last year, right? I like Rasmus Højlund. I really, really do. But what did we spend on him? I think we spent nearly 80 million euros on Rasmus Højlund. Let me check. And this isn't me slagging off Rasmus Højlund, by the way. This is me slagging off the Glazers, slagging off John Murtagh, Richard Arnold and Ed Woodward, who were stupid enough to pay... Yeah, we paid 75 million euros for Rasmus Højlund last season, who'd scored like 9 goals in the Serie A. Whereas this year, we just went and got Xerxes for 34, who scored more goals than him in the same league the season before. Last season, we spent 65 million euros on Mason Mount. I mean, where was the logic in that, right? Season before that, I mean, the pattern just goes every single season. It's not like a one-off. Every single year, we bought stupid players. Not stupid players, that's harsh. We bought some good players, but for stupid money. Anthony, the season before, 95 million euros. Casemiro, 70 million euros. I mean, do I need to go on? The pattern is there to be seen of how we have found ourselves in this position, right? Even the season before that, 85 million euros for Jadon Sancho. I mean, that hasn't aged very well, has it? Let's be honest. It really, really hasn't. Every single year, without a shadow of a doubt, we've overspent. Yeah, and that's why we're in the situation we are now, effectively. And I've got no issues whatsoever with Ineos taking their time, being methodical about it, using their logic, and not getting rinsed in the market. Because that is why we're in the problems we're in. I mean, the season before that even, we spent 50 million euros on Donny van der Beek. I mean, what was the logic behind that? And this is the final one I'll read out, all right? Just to put the nail in the coffin. And then in 2019, this is my favourite one of all. We spent 87 million euros on Harry Maguire. So every single window over the last 5 years that we've just looked through, we've been absolutely mugged off. And I don't think that's going to happen this window. I don't. And it hasn't so far. So I know people are screaming out for signings. People are saying, why are they not buying players? Give them the money they want. We need signings. Give PSG the money. I would rather they didn't. I would rather they stamp their foot in the ground. I would rather they say, you know what? This is how much we're willing to pay. Either you accept the deal or you can do one. Somebody says, I'm confused now. Together, De Ligt and Mazraoui cost £55 million, but De Ligt costs 55 million euros. I'm not sure what you mean there, mate. So Bayern Munich want 50 million euros for De Ligt, right? 50. And they want 15 million for Mazraoui, which is a combined fee of 65 million euros. If you convert that to pounds, which is what I do because I'm in England, that's 55 million pounds. So 55 million euros, 65 million pounds. That's the situation there. Al says you forgot Aaron Wan-Bissaka for 50 million. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. We'll be here all day if I go through every single transfer window, you know? Like, the pattern is there to be seen. Every window up until this point, we have been absolutely mugged off. Keith says, why are we not looking at Gallagher, 33 million, and get Chalobah on loan? That's an interesting one. And that's not one that I've heard anything about. How much is the Gallagher to Atletico Madrid deal? I don't know. Let me have a look. Yeah, £33 million bid, Conor Gallagher. Would you want Conor Gallagher at Manchester United? Let me know in the comment section. I mean, for £33 million, that does present some pretty good value, doesn't it? He can play as a CDM. I mean, that would be mad, wouldn't it? That would be a crazy curveball if Manchester United just went and signed Conor Gallagher for £33 million. I'm going to push this out there, and obviously you can disagree with me. That's completely fine. I would probably rather sign Conor Gallagher than Manuel Ugarte. I would rather sign Conor Gallagher for £33 million than Manuel Ugarte for £60 million. That's what PSG are demanding. It's half the price for a player who's already Premier League proven, was one of Chelsea's best players last season. He obviously is English, so would fit the homegrown quota. I would definitely do that without a shadow of a doubt. No doubt about it. You could literally do this. For the same price as Manuel Ugarte, you could get Conor Gallagher for £33 million. You could get Amrabat for £10 million. That's £43 million. And you could probably go and get Youssouf Fofana as well for around £20 million. You could get 3 midfielders for the same price as what they want for Manuel Ugarte. And if you did that, right, so 3 players in, Conor Gallagher, Amrabat, and Youssouf Fofana, those 3 in for £60 million. You could then sell Eriksen for £5 million. You could sell Scott McTominay for £30 million. That's £35 million combined. And you could sell, hopefully, Casemiro later on in the window for, say, 40. So you'd probably get £75 million for Casemiro, Eriksen, and McTominay. And you could replace that with Conor Gallagher, Amrabat, and Youssouf Fofana for less money than what it would cost you. Like, I don't know why we're not looking at it. Yeah. But I only brought it up because somebody in the chat was asking about it. We're not going to go for Conor Gallagher, so it's a pointless conversation to have. But yeah, I just think when you look at that for £33 million, it's pretty good. Darren says those 3 players are average. I mean, if Ugarte is so good, why was he sat on the bench for most of last season? When Conor Gallagher was playing every single game for Chelsea in a team that finished above Manchester United. Why was Ugarte sat on the bench and Youssouf Fofana starting every single game for Monaco? Like, I don't know. I think there's this obsession that Ugarte is this amazing player. He's going to unlock everything. He's the answer. We must sign him. But in reality, he sat on the bench for most of the season for PSG. And all of the players that I just spoke about were in the teams for their respective clubs. Yeah, I don't know. I think people have just got this obsession with Manuel Ugarte now, you know? Which is fine. Obviously, if he's your favourite player, then great. But I just think for the money that it presents, it's just not very good value for anybody. Well, the only person it's good value for is PSG. Like, they're the ones getting a deal here. Everyone else is effectively being shafted, you know? There's one final story I wanted to talk about really, really quickly. So it's on Federico Chiesa. Obviously, we know that Chiesa is up for sale this summer. Fabrizio Romano's come out this morning saying that apparently Chiesa is not going to be playing in any of the squads for the friendly games. They want to get rid of him. Is there a world where Man United go back in for Chiesa? Obviously, we know that Juventus and PSG both supposedly want Jadon Sancho. The more I think about it, I would rather keep Sancho than get Chiesa. I think Sancho, if you get him in the right mentality and he's happy and whatever else it is, and you unlock his capabilities, Sancho's a quality player. He is. I know he disrespected the club and all the rest of it, but yeah. We've got another super chat coming in here. Thank you for your support, mate, from V33. V33 says we should sign Rabiot on a 2-year deal due to his age, and also get Amrabat. We have Casemiro, Mount, Mainu, Bruno, and Collier. Let the rest go. Next summer, fix that midfield again. You know what, mate? I would have absolutely zero problems with that whatsoever. You get Rabiot for free. You get Amrabat for 10 million. And then, as you said, you still have Casemiro. You have Mount. You have Mainu. You have Bruno. You have Collier. Very nice. You get rid of Eriksen. You get rid of McTominay. Like, it makes sense. It does. It really, really does. So yeah, thank you for your super chat, mate. And I actually do agree with you there. The more that this Manuel Ugarte stuff rumbles on, the less I want him. I'm starting to feel a little bit fed up with it, to be honest. I am. Somebody in the chat saying we should sign Ugarte and keep Casemiro. Fair enough. But yeah, thank you for your support, mate. I really, really do appreciate that. What else have we got? Just seeing if there's anything else to report before we wrap up today's video. If you haven't liked the video yet, by the way, please do that. We've got still 1,500 people watching and only about 600 likes. So if you haven't liked the video yet, please go and do that and make sure you subscribe. We are on the road to 40k subscribers. When we hit 40k, I'm giving out 2 of the new blue Manchester United shirts with any name you want on it, any shirt number. So make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Get involved here on Daily Red Devil. I think we've kind of come to the natural end of the show, to be honest with you. Oh, there's a little bit I wanted to talk about on Malacia really, really quickly. So I don't know if anybody saw this yesterday, but apparently Malacia is going to be back in October. I mean, that's mad, isn't it? I was looking yesterday, and the last time that Malacia played a game of football, it was about 18 months ago. Yeah, it was in the 2022-23 campaign. I mean, that's crazy, isn't it? I really want to know what's happened to Malacia. I think there is something else that's happened, something more sinister. But whether we'll ever find out about that or not, I don't know. Obviously, I hope he's okay. Like, let's have a look. Yeah, so the last time that Malacia played professional football was on the 28th of May, 2023. And apparently he's not going to be back till October at the earliest. So he'll have been out for nearly 18 months. And it wasn't like a leg break or anything, you know? What else have we got? We've got another super chat coming in here from Macmillan. Macmillan says, Ineos don't want to get players that they have to replace in a year or two. They want players they can build this project with. That's a fair point. I get that. I do fully get that. But at the same time, right, if you flip that on its head, Ineos also don't want to overpay for players. So what would Ineos rather do, right? Buy a player that fits their age profile for an overinflated price, or maybe fill a couple of stopgaps for the time being and then sort it out properly, you know? Because you've got to think, right? Everyone's obsessed with Manuel Ugarte, which is fine. But Yusuf Fofana's only 25. He fits the age profile. Zubimendi is, I think, 26. He fits the age profile. Like, there are lots of other options out there that fit Ineos' age profile. It's not that Zubimendi is the only one there that fits, you know? There are lots of others. So I completely agree with you. And we know that Ineos want these players apparently all, you know, around the age of 25 or under. I get that. But it's whether Ineos are willing to overpay or would they rather wait? And I think they'd rather wait. But, you know, only time will tell. Only time will tell. Felicity says, how will we win the shirt? So when we hit 40k subscribers, we will do... there'll be a post and it will just be like, you got to put your name in and I'll pick one of the names at random. 2 of the names, sorry. There's 2 winners. So there'll be more information once we get to 40k. We're still a little way away from 40k subscribers, but I'll make it very clear to people in the chat how to get involved and all the rest of it. Al says, has Ineos made top 4 in France? No, I don't think so, mate. I don't think so. But that's irrelevant, you know. Like, they're at Manchester United. We've got to get behind them. We've got to back them. A. Francis, have we inquired about Fofana? We've inquired about a lot of players, mate. Loads and loads and loads of players. Ineos are keeping their options open, you know? So, yeah, I just wonder whether Ineos think that PSG will come back in for Sancho and then they can do some sort of swap deal. That probably is the most likely option here, I think. You know? Because if Manuel Ugarte is worth 70 million, then so is Sancho, I'm sorry. Realistically, let's not joke. They're both the same age, I think. How old's Sancho? Is he 23 or 24? 24. Sancho and Manuel Ugarte are exactly the same age. Sancho's just come off the back of a Champions League final. Like, if PSG are genuinely telling us that they think that Manuel Ugarte is worth 70 million, then I'm telling you that Jadon Sancho is worth 70 million, right? And just to be clear, I don't think Jadon Sancho is worth 70 million, and I don't think Manuel Ugarte is worth 70 million either. He's worth probably 40. But if that's what PSG think, and that's what they're sticking by, then I'm sticking by Jadon Sancho's worth 70 million as well. You know, that would be what I would say to PSG in the negotiations. But somebody's asking about Antonio Silva. There's no news about Antonio Silva, mate. I don't want to just make up something for the sake of it. There's no news on Antonio Silva to Manchester United. Zero at the moment. Things might change, but at the moment, Manchester United are pushing for Ligt. That's who they want, and that's who they're going to sign by the looks of it. So, yeah. I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. It's been an amazing stream this morning. We went on for about an hour. Really good conversation had. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really, really appreciate it. Please make sure to smash a like on the video before you go. Doesn't cost you any money. It's completely free content, so I'd really appreciate that. And make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. I will be back at 1:30 for a lunchtime roundup, and there will also be a show at 6 p.m. tonight as usual. Thank you very much. Have an amazing Saturday, everybody. Really great conversation. This has been Daily Red Devil. Speak to you all a bit later. Bye for now.